There's a lot of excitement going around these days about these supposed tapes and Devin Archer proving that Joey Basement took bribes as it relates to the crane and some of his other nefarious financial activities. And in any other normal scenario, I'd be excited about it. But I'm getting kind of sick of listening to people telling me what's about to happen. So I'm going to go ahead and call it now. I don't think anything is going to happen at all. Nothing. No arrest. No nothing. Because the easiest way to keep otherwise productive people at bay and waiting is to say, just wait, Patriots. Next week, next month, around the corner, it's going to happen. We're going to be held to justice. And then when nothing happens, they kick the can further down the road. I don't think anyone's going to be arrested. Not Hunter, not Joe, not Devin Archer. No tapes are going to be revealed, and if they are, it's not going to matter. Nothing's going to matter. They're keeping us in an endless spiral loop, telling us what's about to go down, and it never will. We are constantly told that people will be held to account, or bombshell information is going to get released, or the storm is coming. It ain't coming. And if I'm wrong, I'll eat it. I would love to be wrong, and I'll never take this video down whether it happens or not. I've never taken any video down, which I can't say so much about some other people that create on here. I don't know about you, but I'm sick of being lied to by mostly everyone. Jeffrey Poopstain's notorious crimes were exposed on the internet for years before he was finally held account. He was arrested, given a sweetheart deal where he was able to leave prison 5 nights a week, aided and abetted by the exact same lying demons that are pretending that they're holding other people to account now. And even after he got arrested and convicted of his heinous and disgusting crimes, some of the most notorious and popular people in the entire world associated with him after that, and still walk the streets free every day now. Jeffrey Poopstain and his associate Ghislaine Garbwell committed the most heinous acts imaginable and got away with it for decades, only to end up in prison for serving underage girls to no one. Poopstain had multiple houses and apartments around the United States and even around the globe, some of which had more cameras in it than Fort Knox. Yet not a single tape has been released, not a single accomplice arrested. And then, after decades of getting away with it, when he finally ends up in the clink, the guards simultaneously fall asleep, the cameras break, even though he's the most high-profile criminal to have been arrested in a decade. And then, even though they pretended like he just clapped himself in his own cell, they moved the body before anybody could get there and, I don't know, take photos of it, to have evidence and proof that he actually even did what they pretended that he did. That's like lightning striking the exact same place 3 times in a row perfectly, and that place being a skillet that cooks my toasted ham sandwich. He had a luxury brownstone in Manhattan, as well as lived on Palm Beach Island in West Palm. You tell me one of those high-end homes over the course of a number of decades didn't have a camera recording system that could have at the very least documented cars coming in and out of those compounds? You're kidding yourself. And that's if the cameras that he set up himself happen to just not record any information at any of his properties or whatever. I'm sure that's believable. Also, it's not like the guy didn't have cell phones, telephones, bank data, information of people going inside and outside of his residences. Oh, what's the only way that you could possibly explain this? Oh, maybe because they're all in on it. Got it. I think it was the Virgin Islands that tried to hold Chase Bank accountable for aiding and abetting this crime. Chase Bank ain't got nothing to say. JP Morgan Chase quietly sat on the sidelines while hundreds of millions of dollars, billions of dollars moved in and out of the account of one notorious literal demon, Bernard Madoff, who sat in literally the upper echelons of the finance world, getting away for ridiculous crimes, completely stealing money without even placing trades on their behalf, not even a single trade for over a decade. He was investigated extensively by the SEC, the exact government organization that's in place to prevent these types of crimes. They investigated him multiple times and didn't catch him. And he freely moved tens, if not hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars in and out of his JP Morgan Chase account for the better part of a decade, completely enriching that company while they looked the other way. And now you got Jamie Dimon, CEO of JP Morgan, talking about a future presidential run. Perfect. On the 6th of January, which these literal lying demons are suggesting is one of the most troubling and trying times in American history, on par with Pearl Harbor and 9/11. A mysterious man was caught on film placing supposedly pipe bombs in front of the Democratic building. This man was caught on video with a still image that's been broadcast around the internet in one of the most heavily surveilled cities on the planet, on supposedly one of the worst days in American history. And they mean to tell us that we have cameras on Mars taking photos and sending them back to us. You're gonna sit out there and believe that they can't identify who this person is on this camera? For well over a decade, satellite imagery has had the ability to read text on a piece of paper from space. Yet you're going to tell me that the most powerful government in the entire world, the most powerful and most advanced society in the history of human existence, can't figure out how to trace the footsteps of a human person that was caught on film, timestamped in the most heavily surveilled city in the world, placing supposed pipe bombs? And even though they have still images and video footage of this person, 2 years later they still can't figure out who it is? Okay. Washington, D.C. has an elaborate network of surveillance cameras, not only on government and on official buildings, but also on private businesses, residences. You also have cell phone data, purchasing data. Yet they can't figure out how this person walked into one of the most surveilled buildings. They can't map them back or out, in or out of that spot. Okay. Then, of course, you have the unprecedented Supreme Court decision leak on Roe v. Wade. This leak, which could have been only one of a handful of people, unprecedented in human history, set the entire country into a tailspin. Protest violence, damage to property. Yeah, they still haven't told us who did that. And then in 2020, you have violence and damage all over the country and for some justice for King Floyd. And almost none of those people were ever held to account, not for the violence that they caused, not for the damage that they did, but people who walked into the Capitol to take a piss go to prison. Then you got the violence carried out in the school in Nashville from that person who writes a clear manifesto declaring why they did it, and that was never released as well. Whereas every other manifesto, every other piece of evidence, and any other crime, even ones that are not as high profile, is released within a day. They hate you, they hate us, and they're all lying. Then, of course, let's not forget about Building 7 in Manhattan in 2001. You got a however many story building collapsing directly into its own footprint after getting hit by nothing. And of course, the official story of that day, including the discovery of a paper passport of one of the people that hijacked one of those planes in New York City, being found on the street below, blocks away, before the tower even came down. Found on the street and turned into to police within an hour or two. And that was the exact same hijacker that they say was up in that plane. Because, of course, naturally, jet fuel melts steel beams and two skyscrapers, but a cardboard passport is fine. And of course, let's completely overlook all of the eyewitness reports, including people that had worked in the building for over a decade, saying that there was explosions down in the basement and on the lower floors that disabled their ability to move up and down stairwells. But don't worry, because we can completely forget about those. Because the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, because they were quick to overshadow that by telling American heroes to walk into a toxic dust cloud plume with tons upon tons of asbestos in the air, pulverized asbestos. But don't worry, American heroes, because it's safe to breathe, resulting in more first responders, firemen, and police officers dying from the air and the air quality and associated diseases, respiratory illnesses years later than actually died on that day. But don't worry, guys, because they just made a mistake. Let's totally forget about Anthony Garbchi and the bridge troll Weebles that worked on all of these mysterious potions that will receive an annual commission check for the rest of their life for working on these mysterious potions. That the exact same administration that everybody seems so obsessed with that's going to come back and save us. Don't worry, Patriots, just wait for 2024 ushered in. Oh, but don't talk about that unless you're a rhino. Let's completely forget about the multi-year fake Russia story, wasting and squandering millions upon millions of taxpayer dollars and all of our attention for years. All of it came to light, all of it was exposed, but nobody cared, nothing happened. In 2016, we started hearing about Hillary's emails. We heard, lock her up, I'm going to appoint a special counsel for her emails. And then the outsider got in, our guy got in, and she was never held accountable. No special prosecutor, no accountability, no nothing. But now we're supposed to believe him because he said he's going to appoint a special prosecutor for Joey Basement. But we should believe him this time because he just forgot last time. And of course, let's not forget about Julian Assange and Edward Snowden. Both men exposing corruption in the highest halls of power. Exiled from supposedly the freest land in the world for the grave injustice of doing actual journalism. And on the campaign trail in 2016, WikiLeaks, I love WikiLeaks. And when our supposed guy had the ability to pardon either of them, what did he do? Nothing. Oh, he just says he doesn't know what WikiLeaks is. I don't even know about him. But don't worry, Patriots. Let's just ignore these Patriots. But don't worry, guys. Nothing to see here because Kodak Black got pardoned. Don't worry. Yet despite all this, Fauci got screen time. Birch got screen time. They didn't get fired. In fact, they got an award. And a pharmacy lobbyist got put at the head of HHS, ushering in the most egregious lockdown in American history. And then in order to maintain their emergency use for this mysterious potion that enriched all of these demons, they completely shelved Ivor Blank Blank. A solution, or at least somewhat of a solution that would have only cost a couple of dollars, shelved for Garbdesivir at more than $3,000 a treatment. But don't worry, Patriots, forget about that, because the hammer's coming. And now what? You're sick of all this inflation? Well, that's Joe's fault. Let's totally forget about the record amount of debt and deficit spending by the last administration. Let's totally forget about the trillions upon trillions of dollars were printed. Let's totally forget about the CARES Act. I'm sure the inflation didn't come from that. But don't worry, guys, because that doesn't matter. And one of the only decent, principled members of Congress that we have left, Thomas Massie, was one of the only people to oppose that. But don't worry, guys, because he's a rhino now. Because in 2013, he said some nice things about Lindsey Graham Cracker. But don't pay attention to your guy. Don't pay attention to how your guy endorsed Graham Cracker just the same. Let's not forget about that. Everybody is completely and totally full of shit. You get lies and obstruction from the left, lies and obstruction from the right, and now even the influencer class throwing you in an endless loop, promising something's going to happen down the line if you only just purchase this access or buy this subscription. And then the best that people can come up with is to repeat those exact same talking points that are being spoon-fed to them by their favorite creators, screaming in the comments and viciously attacking other people that agree with them most of the time because they disagree on this one thing. We're being led on an endless loop. The whole thing's a trap. The whole thing's a lie. No one's coming to save you. They don't have any bombshell. Nothing's going to happen. Nobody's going to get held accountable. And meanwhile, the pigs get rich and the hogs get slaughtered. FYI, you're the hog.